So what are some of the ways that an interview can get off the path or things start going wrong, and what should you do about it? So, because anything is possible, we're talking about people here. There have been stories of, worst case scenarios being something like an officer separates the couple and berates them and tells a US citizen, for example, that we know you're engaging in marriage fraud, sign this sworn statement admitting to it and you won't be in trouble. Otherwise, you're in major, major trouble. So we've all heard horror stories of this nature. I think that's highly unlikely to happen. So while anything's possible because we're all people, I think what's more likely to happen, and let me pause to say, if something crazy like that happens, you can absolutely ask to speak to a supervisor. And not that that would solve the issue, but I think it's good to kind of get it on the record that you asked to speak to a supervisor, and you are not forced. You do not have to sign anything. Certainly nothing, you should never sign anything that's not true, but you do not need to feel pressured or intimidated into doing something like that. So putting this aside, because it's highly unlikely to happen, don't worry, let's talk about the ways where in immigration interview, the adjustment of status green card interview can go a little off kilter. So one example would be where someone answers a question incorrectly. And an example I'll give is, we were recently with a couple and the officer was asking about bank accounts. And our client said something like, these are the only accounts that both of us have. And actually it wasn't true, but it's not that our client was trying to purposely mislead the officer. They were just talking, and this is the account they primarily use, and they had some inactive account that we knew about. So it's not a big deal, but it's actually incorrect what the person said. So to guard against this, the impact of this, I think it's really important that both of you, even though, as I advised in our hour-and-a-half tutorial preparation, that you both listen to the questions very carefully. And if your spouse says something that's wrong, that is a place where you want to actually interject and say, actually, we also have this account. And as a general piece of advice, I would say try to avoid using words like never, only, because in common conversation, we throw things like this around all the time. But this is a formal immigration interview, so you don't want to create problems where there are none, where the officer taking notes might write down only account, and it turns out you have other accounts. So just be careful kind of in your word selection and treat this as the formal occasion and event that it is. So another way that I think interviews can go a little off kilter is, for example, an officer asks for a particular document and you don't have it. Now, you should be very prepared, so you should have all the documents, and we go through the documentary requirements in great detail in our interview prep tutorial. But sometimes, even with the best preparation, maybe what you have isn't sufficient. An example would be your birth certificate. For some reason, the officer says, this is not sufficient, it doesn't fit the reciprocity schedule, and I should make sure it does, but whatever it might be. I guess my point here is, don't, get so nervous and think, oh no, it's all over. This was our last moment and I failed and this is all for naught. It's not like that. Assuming you put forth a conscientious effort and you've been prepared up to this point, most officers would give you a chance to provide that missing documentation. So don't think, oh no, this is all over, because that'll be a greater disservice to you. So keep calm. Rely on the truth and the facts of your documentation, and you should be given an opportunity to provide that missing document. So last point I'll address is sometimes, and we go into the specifics of the questions in the tutorial, but let me say sometimes couples are given a Stokes interview, which means you're asked questions about the authenticity of your marriage, but then the officer likely has some doubts or concerns, and you are then separated, and each of you are asked questions separately. Now, this is not a common occurrence. And if this happens, again, it might send you reeling, thinking, oh no, this is completely going down the drain. But again, don't think that, because there are plenty of couples who've gone through the Stokes interview, and it was actually an opportunity for them to convince the officer and to have a chance to show the officer that, yes, we have a legitimate, bona fide relationship. So what's really important in this is to not let your, just get nervous, and that's going to increase your chances of having a brain freeze and answering things incorrectly, but to really actively listen. Again, rely on the truth and the facts of your relationship, and answer the questions concisely. And I would also say, don't take guesses at answers. If you don't know something, then let the officer know you don't know. Because just because you're married doesn't mean you have to know every single fact about every single thing. So you'd be surprised how many things my husband doesn't know about me. And it could be something simple like, and this has actually been asked, what brand of night cream does your spouse use? Who knows? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So I guess my point being, don't let that shake you up too much, but be calm and keep your head together and answer as best as you can. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and check out our full green card interview prep tutorial at www.adamlawgroup.com/tutorials. For only $20, you'll get a complete step-by-step guide to prepare you for your interview. If you like, don't forget to follow us on our social accounts where we post content relating to immigration and business law.